Demo Man. You get to spam stickies at the choke, set up traps, connect clutch pipes, and bottle enemies who get too close for comfort. But also, Heavy Weapons Guy. You get to mow down waves of enemies, eat your tasty little sandwich, and hold the front line. But also, these two fine gentlemen are an example of a subclass, which is basically a way of adding extra gameplay variety without the need for making entirely new characters. I mean, you don't really need to put all the effort into making a 10th class when you could just give a sword and shield to some crippling alcoholic that's already in your game. I mean, A, it's way funnier if you do that, B, it's probably more time and cost effective from a developer's standpoint, and C, it's way funnier. All the subclasses which have come into popularity are a bit of a wacky bunch, but they do show us a lot about TF2 as a game, so come along with me, it's time we meet the gang. Demo Knight is the quintessential subclass. We transform this projectile-based, area denial-focused explosives man into a literal knight. That means no more laying sticky traps because we are slashing and dashing our way to the Holy Land. Instead of running that lame old sticky bomb launcher, we are blessed with the choice of 3 shields that let us charge down our enemies head on. One makes us more tanky, one does more damage on collision, and one lets us change direction a bit better when we charge. And when I say a bit better, I mean holy shit, we can do stuff like this! The key to becoming a good Demo Knight is learning how to force the 1v1s you want to take, because as soon as you find yourself up against multiple opponents who are bouncing you around with explosives and bullets, you're not gonna have a great time. So you have to treat yourself like an assassin, preying on lone targets like snipers and medics, who aren't really expecting a drunk Irishman to collide with them at max speed. But hey, hold on El Maxo, you're getting a little carried away. What's a knight without his sword? I mean, I could give you the full rundown on the benefits and disadvantages of each one, but no. Just use the Eyelander. Every kill you get with this thing rewards you with a little extra health and a little extra speed, which quite quickly lets us snowball into an absolute killing machine. At 4 heads, our health increases up to 235, and our movement speed reaches 136%, aka we're now faster than the scout. We can hunt enemies down better, survive more damage, and retreat in an instant if things get a little too hot. I mean, the only downside of getting this quick is that when you do eventually die and respawn, it feels like you've had your kneecaps forcibly removed with how slow you maneuver the map. Now unfortunately, being limited exclusively to melee combat does mean we run into some problems. Pyros are your new worst enemy, as that whole air blast thing kinda prevents you from playing the game, and don't even get me started on sentry guns which deny you from accessing entire portions of the map. You also have to forfeit the sticky bomb launcher, which if you ask me is pretty much the strongest weapon in the game, meaning you are way less consistent and much more unpredictable in how well you perform. But that's kinda why Demo Knight is so fun. Sometimes you'll die on repeat at a choke point, and other times you'll get that snowball rolling straight into a godlike kill streak. It's crazy, it's chaotic, it's Demo Knight. Engineer is an inherently defensive class. His sentries stop enemies from moving forward, his dispensers provide a place of safety for his team, and his teleporters get people back to this safe haven even faster. He carves out the battlefield and dictates the flow of the game, but Battle Engineer changes this. By swapping out your wrench for the gunslinger, you trade the ability to construct upgradable sentries for little baby ones. They do have less health and do less damage compared to a normal sentry gun, but they also cost less metal to make and build really quickly, which makes them a lot more versatile. They're great for area denial, good at chunking down opponents from range, they can be a good distraction in the middle of combat, and if you're truly an evil person, you can also use the Wrangler, which gives you manual control of your sentry, along with a faster firing rate and shield that triples its effective health. I mean, it's not really surprising that these little dudes don't have the best reputation amongst the community, because they are annoying as fuck to deal with. Like, yeah, you could swap the soldier, equip the direct hit, and one-shot them from across the map, but if you just want to play something like Scout or Pyro, who have the effective range of a T-Rex in a boxing ring, it becomes a bit more of a challenge. But some of the time you're going to be all out of metal or won't have enough time to put down a mini. What do we do then? You gotta go gamer mode with the shocker. It doesn't really matter which one you decide to choose, ignore the Thompson, because they all pretty much do the same thing if you can manage to aim your crosshair good. There's just something so invigorating about some cocky scout thinking he can outmatch you, the Battle Engineer, in a 1v1. No! You may lose the safety and nurturing love of a level 3 sentry when you adopt the Battle Engineer lifestyle, but goddamn does it feel good. Pybro is an interesting case. Our last two friends had a very distinct change in playstyle to become their own subclass, but with the Pybro, it's a little less obvious. Now of course there are some fundamentals. You gotta help your Engie, you gotta spy check, you gotta reflect, and you gotta remove chappers. You basically become your engineer's bitch and help him keep things under control, which is a noble cause. Don't get me wrong, but you're probably not gonna see the Pybro with the crazy amount of kills at the top of the scoreboard. The only thing you have to change about your loadout to become a Pybro is to swap your melee weapon to either the Homewrecker or the Neon Annihilator, which both grant you with the ability to remove sappers, but even that's not really a necessity. As long as you do a good enough job of scaring off sneaky Frenchmen with your flamethrower, your engineers should be fine to remove sappers by themselves. So that makes Pybro more of a mentality, which means you're a bunch more adaptable depending on the situation. Are there 6 spies giving your poor engineer living hell as he tries to keep his nest up? Well, that might be a good time to stop destroying enemy gamers on the front line and going back to help your Engie instead. You can't really say the same thing about Demo Knight, as if you see a bunch of enemies clumped up together asking to have some sticky spammed at them, you're out of luck until you go back to spawn and swap off your shield. This leaves more room for playstyle diversity within the Pyro subclass, as you can effectively use almost any of the flamethrowers, any of the secondaries, and any of the melee options to provide value to your engineer. I mean, you probably don't want to use something like the Phlogistinator because you can't really reflect incoming projectiles, and running the Homewrecker would be an optimal choice, but at the end of the day, it's pretty much up to you and how much you want to commit to the Pybro subclass. And that's the interesting thing when we incorporate mentality into this discussion, because it opens the floodgates for a whole bunch of new potential subclasses, and actually kind of leads us nicely into our next friend. The Hoovy kind of transcends TF2 itself. It's almost this universal symbol of peace and love. I mean, if I saw some absolute fatty crouching in a corner spamming Pootus with some cute cosmetics and a tasty looking sandwich, how could I ever choose violence? He is what the TF2 community refers to as a friendly, meaning he doesn't have any interest in actually playing the game and killing other gamers, he just wants to conga around 2-4. Now I will add a slight disclaimer here because yes, they won't go out of their way to kill people, but if someone has the audacity to inflict even a single point of damage on a Hoovy, they will live to regret being brought into existence. And to be honest, there isn't much past that to tell you. They don't really interact with the game, so I can't really unpack any of the nuances behind Hoovy besides the arc of their sandwich drop or their TTS. For any new viewers, TTS is not text-to-speech, it's actually time to slur, where you can calculate how quickly a Hoovy will commit a verbal hate crime in text chat after a non-friendly decides to kill them for no reason. The Hoovy is a beautiful subclass, and even though they don't really do anything, it says a lot about TF2 and its casual appeal. I mean, it's stuff like this, which is why the game has managed to stick around for so long. Yeah, actually I think that's everyone. I can't really think of any other super popular subclasses that people like to play. I think we're... You know how Soldier's whole shtick is that he has a big old rocket launcher which he uses to do massive splash damage? No. Say goodbye to that and hello to the Rocket Jumper, aka the rocket launcher which inflicts literally no damage but lets us... Yeah, this shit's kinda cool. For those living under Hightower's proverbial rock, Trolldier is a subclass which is all about market guarding, which is basically a mechanic where you can hit guaranteed crits on an enemy as long as you're rocket jumping. You're basically transformed into this highly mobile melee assassin who can quickly dive in, smite down some poor soul, and then jump right out like nothing happened. Now of course, that's not to say it's easy, it's actually really fucking hard. You first have to master rocket jumping, which is complicated enough, and then on top of that, you have to learn how to land in an optimal position near your opponent and time the swing of your market gardener so that it registers that beautiful crit for a quick kill. I feel like I somewhat owe it to every soldier main who has graced this platform to get some quality market gardens in the background footage, but unfortunately, I'm not good. I may have hundreds and hundreds of hours on Soldier, but my forefathers will be disappointed to hear that I never learned how to get good at the whole market guarding thing. It's probably one of the hardest mechanics to learn in the game because you have to be very good at doing a bunch of different things all at once, meaning anyone who is able to consistently do this well has probably dedicated an ungodly amount of hours to the art of Trolldier, which is a very, very noble feat. These guys tend to roam maps like Hightower, which is pretty much Trolldier heaven, along with some others like Upward and Badwater, which have these massive skyboxes, allowing them to pull off some insane jumps. There are some pretty big counters to Trolldier though, especially when it comes to one of our previous friends we talked about and that whole mini-sentry thing, but in all honesty, it's a subclass most countered by a player's own skill level. Trolldier illustrates the insane level of depth and complexity that subclasses are capable of having, and I truly have nothing but respect for those who have managed to master this mechanic. Godspeed, you crazy bastards. I think subclasses are a pretty genius addition to TF2. Allowing classes the flexibility to change their playstyle is undoubtedly a good thing, and it's probably had a part in what has kept TF2 so fresh after 15 years. And look, yeah, I know I didn't cover them all. I can already hear the Pyroshark and Battle Medic coalition rioting outside my window as we speak, but the very nature of subclasses means there's going to be a lot of them. If you change around your weapons and the playstyle of a class to a significant enough degree, you can pretty much make a subclass out of anything. Like, what if I want to exclusively play heavy on 2 Fort for 2 rounds at exactly 8:03 PM with my socks off after drinking half a glass of water and going for a 200-meter sprint? Can that be considered a subclass? Well, probably not, but you get what I'm saying. There's a lot of blurred lines around this area, and I think it's worth having more of a discussion here. But am I going to do that now? Nah.